Hey guys, so today we're going to be solving literal equations. So what is a literal equation? It's an equation that has a lot of letters or variables. So I don't want that to scare you. I just want you to be aware that you are going to see a lot of letters and variables, and we're going to be solving for a specific variable. So a couple formulas or literal equations that you may be familiar with. Area equals length times width. This is the formula for finding a rectangle. And E equals mc squared. Maybe you've heard of this. That is Einstein's theory of relativity. These are both considered literal equations. All right, when we're given a literal equation, you will often be asked to solve the equation for a given variable. Okay, go ahead and highlight that. You're going to be solving for a given variable. The goal is to isolate the given variable. The process is the same process that you use to solve linear equations. The only difference is that you will be working with more letters. All right, this packet is going to hopefully help you process or learn some examples of literal equations. So we're going to work through some of these together, and then you will have an assignment to work on your own. The first one we're going to do is solve A equals BH for B. Okay, so we're solving for B. That means we want to isolate B. All right, since H is multiplied times B, you must divide both sides by H. So whatever the operation is, you have to undo that operation to isolate the variable. All right, so we're trying to get B by itself. We're solving for B. We have multiplication, so we're going to divide by the number we're trying, or the letter we're trying to get rid of. So divide both sides by H. Anything divided by itself cancels. So B equals A divided by H. So we still have the same variables. Now they're just in a different order, so that we have solved for B. All right, the next example is solve P equals 2L plus 2W for W. So you know that, well, you may know that this is the perimeter formula for a rectangle. So first, you subtract 2L from both sides, then you divide both sides by 2. So our whole goal is to isolate W. So we're trying to get this by itself. Since that we have a positive 2L, we subtract first. So if we say minus 2L, it's an equation. So we have to do the same thing on both sides. Here it cancels. P minus 2L equals 2W is still left over on the right side. Now you're going to divide both sides by 2. We're dividing by 2 because we're trying to get W by itself. So we're going to divide by 2, and we divide everything here by 2, and that leaves W equals P minus 2L all divided by 2. So again, this is the perimeter formula for a rectangle, but now we are solving for W, which would be the width of the rectangle. All right, the next example is Q equals the quantity, or in parentheses, C plus D, all divided by 2. When you see the parentheses, that shows you that that is grouped together in the numerator. So the first thing we have to do to solve for D is get rid of the fraction, or multiply by 2. First, we divided by 2, so now we have to multiply by 2. All right, so let's multiply this side by 2 and this side by 2. So now we have 2q equals, this becomes 2 over 1, so that cancels the denominator. And that leaves c plus d. Since that's the only thing left, you don't need the parentheses anymore. And we're still trying to solve for d, which means you need to move c to the other side. If c is positive, then you are going to subtract c from both sides. If c were negative, you would add it, but you always do the opposite operation to move it to the other side. So we're going to have 2q minus c. C minus c cancels, equals d. And if you come back up here, it says solve for d. So we are finished. Once you isolate or get d by itself, you have finished the process. All right, for the next example, it says solve v equals 3k divided by t for t. All right, so you think that you want to solve for t. So everybody usually wants to work with the 3k, but we can't do anything with the 3k right now until we figure out what to do with that fraction. So since t is in the denominator, the first thing you have to do is multiply both sides by t. You think, well, I'm not getting rid of t. I'm putting it over here with v, but you have to multiply by what's on the denominator. That's just the rules of math if you want it to go away. And we do want it to go away. So t divided by t equals 1. Therefore, it goes away. If we multiplied by 3k, then we would have 3k times 3k, which is 9k squared. And I know that may seem confusing right now, but that's not going to get us what we need. So we have to first multiply by the denominator, which is t. Now, we look and we're still solving for t. So now we have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So now we're going to divide by v, which is what we need to move away from t in order to isolate t. So this will cancel, and t equals 3k divided by v. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing. We are solving for t, but in step 1, you're just rearranging it. T is not necessarily by itself, but you still can solve the whole equation or literal equation in 2 steps. So t is in the denominator, so you must first multiply by t, or what's in the denominator. Then you have to divide both sides by v. All right, we're going to look at one more example. Solve q equals 3a plus 5ac 4a. All right, as it says, this one's a little bit tricky because there's 2 a's, and a is what we're solving for. So initially, you have to get a separated from the 2 parts. So on the right-hand side, think of factoring. And here your greatest common factor is an a. So we're going to do a times 3 plus 5c. So in this unit, we have already looked at distributive property, which is a times 3 is 3a, and a times 5c is 5ac. So now you're kind of doing the reverse of that. You're pulling the a out because they both have that in common. All right, now once you do that, it's pretty simple. A times what's in parentheses. So now we're going to divide by what's in parentheses. So q divided by 3 plus 5c equals, anything divided by itself is 1. So everything cancels and leaves just a. So we had to solve for a. So first you had to isolate A, and then you had to divide by everything else since you were multiplying. So that one's not too hard once you get started. It's just kind of knowing where to start. All right, good luck on your homework.